All right, guys, welcome back into the channel. You know what time it is. It's time to go over the PFF grades for the Green Bay Packers. Although it's a loss, we still got to dive down into those PFF grades. I do this after every game, win or loss. And yeah, last night was disgusting. And as much as I would love to just take the tape and everything that happened in that game and forget about it and throw it away, we still need to go look at this. So in today's video, we're going to go and break down the PFF grades for the Green Bay Packers in Week 14 versus the Giants that lost 24-22. Putting the Packers at 6-7, putting their playoff odds back down to 50%. So that's exactly what we're going to do, so stay tuned. The season for a fresh cut is finally here with today's video sponsor, Manscaped. The leaders in below-the-waist grooming just launched their 5th generation lawnmower to help you avoid a silent night in the bedroom this year. Take care of your special snowflake with Manscaped and watch your South Pole shine like never before. Get the best stocking stuffer of all by heading to Manscaped.com and using my code BASS20 to get 20% off plus free shipping. Mrs. Claus will thank you. Starting with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, this is the crown jewel of the holidays and dare I say the best ball trimmer of all time. This electric razor's advanced skin-safe technology is a lifesaver and is known to reduce nicks and cuts. Anybody in the family have too much scruff? Look no further than the Beard Hedger Pro Kit. Does your dad have nasty nose hairs? Save the day with the Weed Whacker Ear and Nose Trimmer 2.0. So guys, for a great Christmas gift or for yourself, head to manscaped.com and get 20% off plus free shipping with code BASS20. That's 20% off plus free shipping your entire order with BASS20 at manscaped.com. Say ho 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 to a well-groomed mistletoe with Manscaped. All right, so now let's dive into these PFF grades. So if we bring up the screen, we're going to start on offense. You know, offense, defense, special teams, they all played bad. So it really doesn't matter where we start. I don't think any one or the other played better than the other. The defense was bad pretty much all game. No sacks, couldn't cover at the end, was soft coverage. The offense didn't do anything to win this game. Special teams made mistakes as well. So let's go to start on the offense just because why not? At the top is actually Patrick Taylor. He's the highest graded player on offense, even with not going out of bounds before halftime, which is interesting. 32 total snaps. So he's getting a lot of snaps. It's not like he's getting 10 snaps when you compare it to A.J. Dillon's 36. It's almost a 50-50 split, which yeah, Patrick Taylor ran good last night, but it's crazy how you draft A.J. Dillon in the second round a few years ago and your main running back's hurt and you're still doing a 50-50 split between him and Patrick Taylor. I feel like A.J. Dillon's the type of running back, you just got to get him rolling and keep feeding him the ball. You can't keep taking him out and ruining that consistency. So Patrick Taylor is 77.9, had a good run block grade and pass block grade. So overall good game for Patrick Taylor. Tucker Kraft was the second highest graded player. This much checks out, at least passes the eye test. I thought Tucker Kraft had an excellent game. So nice to see him finally get the credit he deserves in this game. I thought he had an awesome day blocking as well as most definitely receiving. He was the Packers leading receiver and had a long of 43 up the middle on that one seam route, which is an awesome throw and catch. That was one of the few bright spots on this offense last night. He had a 76.4, good pass block, good run block. The third highest graded player on the Packers offense was Zach Tom. He normally is the highest graded lineman on this team, and he was again last night, 72.2, good pass block, above average run block. The second highest graded lineman was Rasheed Walker, who's really turned it up this past month, a 67.7 here. He had a few rough games earlier this season after, starting. Had a few good games, then had a little bit of a rough stretch, came back. They're still rotating him and Josh Nijman. Josh Nijman we see down here with 17 snaps, Rasheed Walker with 51. So he's still getting the majority. And at this point, he probably deserves it. He is playing a lot better at left tackle recently. A.J. Dillon was the 5th graded player. So we have 2 running backs in the top 5. That's not too ideal, considering how poor the passing offense was last night. Dillon had a 66.1, not a good pass block grade, 43.0. So it seems like he really struggled in pass protection. Samori Toure, actually the 6th highest graded player here. He had only 18 snaps, but that's more than I'm pretty sure he's had all year. He was inactive, a healthy scratch the last 2 or 3 games. So with Watson out, they decided to elevate Toure. He'll probably get even more snaps next week because Wicks looks like he has a high ankle sprain. Watson might not return is my best guess. And then also I just learned that Jaden Reed went out with a concussion, I believe, late on that 2-point conversion after that play. So the Packers could be very thin at wide receiver heading into this Buccaneers game. game, so Torrey probably going to get even more snaps. And speaking of Wicks, he was right below Torrey as the second highest graded wide receiver. I thought he had a good game, had a few nice catches, but then got hurt. He had a 65.6. John Runyon Jr., actually the third highest graded lineman on the Green Bay Packers last night. Still poor in the run blocking regard, 56.7, 82.8. I mean, when I was watching this game, I saw him get blown up multiple times, and I was at the game, so I was watching him, and do I think he was the third best offensive lineman last night? No, but PFF has him graded there. But still will say the same. Sean Ryan deserves to start over him. I don't care that he was graded lower on PFF. He only had 12 snaps. Doesn't matter to me. I still want Sean Ryan there. See what you have in Sean Ryan. He's your third rounder from a year ago. You clearly liked what you saw drafting him. Put him out there. John Runyon's going to be a free agent in the offseason. I feel like you should just try to see what you have fully in Sean Ryan, but I've been saying that. Jordan Love, not a great game for Jordan Love in terms of PFF and in terms of statistics. Definitely a down game. Was it his worst all year? No. Was it his best? Definitely not. But players have down games. The whole team played poorly. So it's not just, Jordan Love played bad and that's why the Packers lost or anything of that sort, like some people like to make it out to be, when the entire team played bad. Jordan Love with a 58.6. Not a good run grade because he did have that one fumble. Passing grade 65.0. Jaden Reed, pretty low grade for what I was expecting, a 56.6. Maybe that's just because he had a couple negative runs, but the blocks weren't there, so how much is that his fault? The Packers ran way too much misdirection with Jaden Reed. I love using him in that role, don't get me wrong, and they should do it every game, but man, they did it way too much. They made it obvious, and that's the point of misdirection. It shouldn't be obvious. That's why you're misdirecting, right? So the Packers got to be, better with that, more picky, should I say. And that's exactly what Matt LaFleur said in his press conference. He has to be more picky with when he utilizes those plays with Jaden Reed, which I 100% agree. So nice to see Matt LaFleur actually own up to that in his press conference today. Sean Ryan, we already talked about him. He has a good pass block grade, 81.7. Poor run block, though, but only had 12 snaps. Josh Nijman at 55.9. Really poor in the pass, pretty poor in the run. So Josh Nijman has been struggling recently, but they're still doing the swap. Nijman, 17 snaps last night. So we'll see if that continues to happen, considering he hasn't been playing good when he does come in. Malik Heath had 23 snaps, a 55.8. I mean, there's a lot of orange to red on the offense, and that makes sense. Offense was poor last night. We see Elton Jenkins. He didn't have a good game at 55.3. Poor against the pass. Okay. Average against the run. Josiah DeGuara is down here. 7 snaps. There's no surprise there. Romeo Doubs, 56 total snaps. He had a 54.7. So PFF didn't like his game too much. Josh Myers, very, very low grade here. Josh Myers was having a good last month, but I guess back down to reality a little bit here for Josh Myers with a 30.0 pass block grade. That's usually where he's been good against, pass blocking, but not last night. He was actually better in the run blocking regard. And then down at the way bottom is Ben Sims, who I thought has been a nice, role player, rotational guy recently. Didn't have a good game last night, but only 10 snaps. So he gets 10, DeGuara gets 7, but Ben Sims ends up with a lower grade at a 52.4. So now let's look at the blocking stats, the pressures allowed, the sacks allowed. We see pressures allowed. Josh Myers allowed 5 pressures with 1 sack. Elton Jenkins allowed 5 pressures, 3 hurries, 2 hits, no sacks. Rasheed Walker allowed 2 pressures and a sack. Zach Tom allowed 2 pressures. Josh Nijman allowed a pressure, and John Runyon allowed a pressure. I'm really surprised to not see a sack attributed to John Runyon, because the one where Jordan Love got sacked, I believe it was on 2nd and 4 in the other team's red zone, in the Giants' red zone. I literally saw John Runyon get thrown on the ground, and that guy sacked Jordan Love. But I'm pretty sure that was John Runyon that got blown up. Correct me if I'm wrong, but those are all the pressures and sacks allowed by these linemen. Now flipping it over to the defense, there are definitely some surprises here. I did not expect this going into the defensive grades, and that's the 2 guys at the top, considering how well the Giants ran against us. We see Devontae Wyatt at the top with an 89.7, probably his best game this year. Yeah, it actually is by 0.1. He had an 89.6 against Minnesota, 89.7 last night against the New York Giants. So his best game of the year. Really nice pass rush for Devontae Wyatt. He actually had 5 total pressures. Although the Packers didn't get home, Devontae Wyatt was pretty much one of the only guys consistently getting pressure on DeVito. TJ Slayton also had a nice game. 86.9, good against the run, decent pass rush. He also had a pressure and 2 tackles. Eric Wilson had 1 snap, 75.2. I believe that was the 4th down try the Giants had, and Eric Wilson was in on the tackle, so that's probably why he's up there, but only 1 snap. Colby Wooden, only 7 snaps, but a 73.3. Lucas Van Ness, only 14 snaps. I feel like still, this guy should be getting more snaps. 72.1, and had a pressure, a hurry, a tackle, and an assist, and a stop, and that's all just in 14 snaps, so maybe he should be getting more snaps. Isaiah McDuffie, again, filling in for a linebacker. This is like a reoccurring theme, whether he's filling in for Campbell or Quay Walker. It's happened so much this year, and he had a good game. 68.3, really good tackle grade. He had 4 total tackles with 0 miss, so nice game by McDuffie. Valentine with a pretty decent game, a 66.3. We'll go over the coverages and what corners led up what after this. Preston Smith, a 63.8. He had 1 pressure and 1 hurry. Rudy Ford, only 3 snaps. It's like this guy was doing so well before his injury. He allowed one of the lower passer ratings in the NFL at safeties. And then John Owens had the game against Detroit, and now all of a sudden he's starting over Rudy Ford, which doesn't make sense to me. Rudy Ford was playing really well, like I said. So for him to get 3 snaps on defense and the defense to play that poorly, maybe they should switch back to Rudy Ford at safety. Kenny Clark had a 62.3, 2 pressures. John Owens, 62.2. That's an average grade, actually better than he usually gets, except for that Detroit game. Devondre Campbell, 59.2. Really inconsistent this year, Devondre Campbell. Remember 2 years ago when he was like the highest graded inside linebacker in the NFL consistently week in, week out? That just hasn't been the case the last 2 years. Rashawn Gary, a tough game. Even though he had 3 pressures, you expect this Packers front to get sacks. The Giants allowed 26 sacks on DeVito the 4 games prior to this. The Packers didn't get 1. It's embarrassing. You expect Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, all these guys to get pressure and get home on DeVito, and it simply didn't happen. So I'm okay with these low grades. They deserve them. 58.6, 3 pressures. Darnell Savage, I feel like this guy was missing tackles all night. He even missed a tackle on DeVito and got juked out of his cleats by DeVito, which is laughable. A 29.9 tackle grade, that checks out. He actually has 3 missed tackles. That's absurd, So inconsistent for Darnell Savage as well, even when he's on the field, and he just came back. Last week was his first game back from IR. Carl Brooks, a 50.7, really didn't record any snaps, 24 total snaps. Ballantyne, 55 snaps at 46.1, so he's starting to have a few bad games back to back to back here. Hopefully Jair returns against the Buccaneers to cover, Godwin, Mike Evans. That's going to be a tall task there. And Igbare had 20 total snaps, so more than Van Ness, and had an awful grade doing it. Although he did have 3 pressures, but a 40.9 was really, really bad against the run, 38.5. And then finally, the lowest graded player on defense. This isn't a surprise, in my opinion. It's Keyshawn Nixon, a 40.1. Dude was probably had one of his worst games ever last night in terms of defense and the muff on the punt return. Just all around bad game for Nixon. All right, so now let's look at the coverages and receptions allowed, and we start with Nixon, who had the horrible grade. He allowed 4 receptions on 5 targets for 60 yards. And of course, that 1 reception to Wandale that went a long of 32, that put the Giants in field goal range and won them the game. Dude couldn't cover all night. Was allowing guys wide open. Valentine allowed 4 catches on 4 targets for 29 yards. These cornerbacks were playing so far off, so yeah, they're going to allow these quick receptions. You can see here, 1 reception, 8 yards, 4 yards, 9 yards, 8 yards. I mean, the Packers were giving everything underneath to the Giants, and they took it. They were playing way too far off, especially that last drive. I have no idea what that was. I mean, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the soft coverage defense. Devondre Campbell, 2 receptions on 3 targets for 25 yards. Savage allowed 3 for 3. 15 yards. Ballantyne only allowed 2 receptions on 3 targets for 17 yards, but although did have a poor grade. And John Owens allowed 2 receptions on 2 targets for 12 yards. So those are all the PFF grades from Packers versus Giants week 14. I tried to get through it quicker because honestly, like I said, I want to take that game, erase it, and move on to Tampa Bay. This is a very important game coming up. The Packers, if they lose, will almost be eliminated. Their percentages will go way down to make the playoffs. Now, it's not official elimination, but obviously their odds are going to be way better if they win this game. And if they lose to the Giants and the Bucs back-to-back, they're not a playoff team anyways. And so we'll see exactly what happens. It's going to be a tough game. It's back at Lambeau. I'm really hoping the Packers can have a nice bounce-back game here against the Buccaneers. But that about does it for this video. I appreciate you guys coming by. If you did enjoy it, please leave a like down below. But I'll catch you on the next one. And as always, go Pack Go.